Thunder rolled across the red hills of Lagun as villagers ran for cover. The palace bells rang wildly, and a guard shouted, "The Oracle! The Oracle has spoken again." Inside the royal hall, young Prince Emotan knelt before the sacred fire, heart pounding. The Oracle's eyes glowed white as she whispered, "A curse runs through your bloodline. The next king shall be wealthy but fruitless. Only truth will bring life again." Lightning flashed. The words echoed through the marble hall, and Emotan's father, King Ando, fell dead before the flame. Panic erupted. That night, warriors turned their blades on one another. For 7 long years, Lagun had no king. Then, in the 8th year, Emotan, barely 19, was crowned. His rule brought gold, farms, and peace, yet the people whispered, "He has no heir." 7 wives, 7 barren wombs, and every night Emotan stared at the stars, wondering if the oracle's curse still lived in his veins. But before the crown, before the curse, there had been a secret. Her name was Adanna. She was poor, the daughter of a fisherman. Yet when Emotan was still a prince, he loved her in secret. They met at the river each dusk, hidden from guards and gossip. One night, under a red moon, Adanna whispered, "If the oracle says your blood is cursed, then let love break it." Emotan smiled. "Then love will." Weeks later, Adanna realized she was pregnant. She ran to the palace gate, clutching her belly. "I must see the prince!" she cried. When Emotan came out, his face turned to stone. "Don't speak of this again," he said coldly. "If anyone hears, they'll strip me of my name, and you'll be banished forever." Tears filled her eyes. "You can't deny your own blood." "I have no choice," he whispered. "The oracle watches everything." Her cry echoed as the gates slammed shut. Months passed. Alone, she carried the pregnancy through hunger and shame. Then came the festival of sacrifice, the day the gods demanded blood. By dark tradition, a newborn stranger's blood pleased them most. That very night, Adanna went into labor. Her screams mixed with the sound of drums. She knew the priests were hunting for a child. "No," she gasped, wrapping her baby in cloth. "You will not die for their gods." She ran into the rain, barefoot, clutching her newborn. Behind her, torches flickered. Voices shouted, "Find the abomination child!" She reached the river Ukwu. The current roared wild and black. "Help!" she cried into the storm. A woman's voice answered, "Who's there?" A fisherwoman stepped from a canoe, lamp trembling in the wind. "I am a joke." "What happened?" Adanna fell to her knees. "Please, take my baby. They want his blood. I've nowhere to go." A joke looked at the child, a boy, calm, despite the chaos. Around his waist gleamed a tiny golden bead. A joke froze. That bead was identical to the sacred beads her own family gave to their first daughters at birth. "Where did you get this?" she asked. Adanna shook her head weakly. "It was around his waist when he was born." Maybe from the heavens a joke helped her into the canoe. "Come, you'll stay with me. You're safe now." They rowed through the storm to a joke's distant village. That night, a joke dreamed of her late husband. He stood in light and said, "A joke, you've found our missing treasure. The blood of your blood has returned." She woke in tears. Could it be true? Years ago, her first daughter had been lost during the tribal wars. At dawn, a jockey told Adanna, "My daughter was taken long ago during the wars of Lagun. You bear her mark, the same bead, the same scar. You are my child." Adanna held a joke tightly and wept. Years passed. They lived quietly, raising the boy, Etan, in peace. He grew strong, wise, and gentle. Yet fate was only waiting. When Etan turned 21, famine struck. The rivers dried, crops failed, and only Lagoon still had food. And not just any food, the white moon gourd and eru beans, sacred meals once reserved for kings. Etan could eat nothing else. Every other meal made him sick, but the moon gourd and eru beans gave him strength. One morning, a jockey said, "We must go to Lagoon's market." It's far, but only there can we find what you need. Adanna hesitated. Lagun? That cursed land? We have no choice, Ajoki said. The boy must live. They set out at dawn, walking miles across dusty plains until the golden towers of Lagun appeared. The market buzzed with drums and shouting traders. Etan's eyes lit up at the sight of white gourds stacked in baskets. These are the ones, he said. As he reached for a woman's voice cut through the noise. Stop! It was Queen Funmilayo, the king's fifth wife. She stared at Etan, her eyes wide. The crowd turned. Gasps spread like wildfire. The resemblance between Etan and the portrait of King Emotan carved above the market gate was startling. Same eyes, same jaw, same mark under the chin. Queen Funmilayo pointed, trembling. Who is that boy? People murmured. He looks exactly like the king. Guards, she shouted. Bring him to the palace. Adanna clutched Etan's arm. Run, my son! But the guards surrounded them. Etan lifted his hands. I've done nothing wrong. The queen studied him. We shall see. Moments later, the royal carriage rolled through the market. Inside the palace, the old king rose slowly from his throne. Who dares disturb my peace? Queen Funmilayo bowed. Your Majesty, there's a young man in the market who looks exactly like you. The king frowned. Exactly like me? Yes, my lord. The villagers say he could be your reflection. The king's voice deepened. Bring him in. If you're gripped by this story so far, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned, because what happens next will shake the kingdom of Lagun itself. The palace doors swung open, and the sound of armored feet echoed through the marble hall. Etan walked between the guards, calm but curious. Adanna and Ajoki followed closely behind, their faces pale with fear. King Emotan sat high on his throne, gold robe shimmering under the torchlight. His eyes narrowed as he studied the young man. For a long moment the hall was silent. Then the king whispered, almost to himself, It's like looking into a mirror from my youth. Etan bowed slightly. My name is Etan, my lord. We came only to buy food from your market. Adanna stepped forward quickly. He means no harm, your majesty. We live far from here. He just needs the white moon gourd and iru beans to survive. Every other food makes him sick. The king's brow furrowed. The moon gourd and iru beans, the same food I've eaten every day since I was a child, the court murmured. Queen Funmilayo folded her arms. Your Majesty, the resemblance is too much to ignore. The people are already talking. Silence, Emotan said, his voice deep and shaking slightly. He rose from his throne, walked down the marble steps, and stood face to face with Etan. Who is your father? I never knew him, Etan said quietly. My mother raised me with the help of my grandmother. The king turned his gaze to Adanna. Your name? She hesitated, trembling. Adanna. The hall went dead silent. The king staggered backward as if struck by lightning. The name echoed in his mind, Adanna, the girl he'd loved and betrayed. He pressed a hand to his chest. No, it cannot be. Ajoki stepped forward. It is true, my king. This is her son, the boy she bore the year you took the throne. Whispers rippled through the court. The king's 7 wives exchanged glances, fear flickering in their eyes. Queen Funmilayo whispered, The curse. The king dropped to his knees before Adanna. His voice broke. Forgive me. I was young, foolish, afraid of losing my crown. I denied what was mine. Tears filled Adanna's eyes. Do you know what I suffered? They called me cursed. They hunted my child like an animal. I ran through storm and fire to keep him alive. The king bowed his head. And still, the gods punished me. 7 wives, yet no heir. The oracle warned me, but I never understood. Adanna's anger trembled into sorrow. The gods did not curse you, Emotan. You cursed yourself. The oracle's priestess, an old woman who had been silent all this time, rose from the corner. Her voice cut through the air like thunder. The seed of truth has returned. The curse ends only when the truth is spoken before the people. King Emotan looked up. then summon them all. Let the whole kingdom hear moments later, the palace courtyard filled with villagers. The news had spread like wildfire. The king has found his lost son. Drums rolled. The air was thick with suspense. King Emotan stood on the balcony with Adanna, Etan, and a jockey beside him. His voice boomed across the crowd. People of Lagun! For years you've called me blessed, but I was cursed. I denied my own blood and brought drought to our land. This woman, Adanna, bore me a son when I was a prince. I turned my back on them out of pride, but the gods have returned what I lost. The crowd gasped, then murmured. Some wept, others shouted prayers. The king took Etan's hand and raised it high. This is my son, the true heir of Lagun. Thunder cracked, but this time it was... It wasn't fear, it was like the heavens answering. The oracle's priestess lifted her staff. The curse has been broken, she cried. The blood of truth restores the land. Rain began to fall, soft at first, then strong. The parched earth drank eagerly. Crops sprouted overnight, green and alive. The people cheered and danced under the rain. Inside the palace, the wives of the king watched in silence. Some cried, others smiled faintly. Queen Funmilayo stepped forward. My king, she said softly, the gods have chosen mercy. We should too, the king nodded. Each of you shall have your peace. You have all suffered because of me. Adanna turned to Etan, eyes full of pride and love. Do you see, my son? Truth always returns home, but just as peace seemed to settle, a shadow moved at the palace gates. A guard ran in, breathless. Your Majesty, the oracle's stone, the sacred seal of Lagun, it's cracking. Everyone froze. The priestess rushed to the temple corner. The sacred stone, which glowed softly for generations, now split down the middle with a loud snap. The king's face went pale. What does it mean? The priestess turned slowly, her eyes wide. It means the curse was deeper than your bloodline. Someone has tampered with destiny itself. The rain suddenly stopped. The sky turned a strange red. The crowd outside fell silent, staring up as a strange symbol appeared in the clouds. The mark of the old war clan, the same one that destroyed Lagun's peace years ago. King Emotan whispered, the enemies of our ancestors. They've returned. Etan clenched his fists. Then we'll fight them, father. Emotan looked at him with a mix of fear and pride. No, my son. You are not just a warrior. You are the prophecy itself. Lightning struck again, this time hitting the temple tower. The oracle's voice boomed through the storm once more. One truth has been spoken, but another remains hidden. The crown must fall before peace will rise. Etan turned to Adanna, confused. Mother, what does it mean? Adanna's face went pale. She whispered, it means one of us must die for the land to truly live. The wind howled, the drums stopped, and every soul in Lagun knew. The story was far from over. If you're still here, make sure to like this video, drop a comment about what you think will happen next, and subscribe so you don't miss. Because the real secret behind the prophecy is about to unfold. The palace walls trembled that night. The entire kingdom whispered of the strange young man who looked exactly like the king. Servants ran through the hallways, guards whispered by the torches, and Queen Funmilayo watched from her window, eyes burning with curiosity and jealousy. In the dungeon below, Etan sat in chains. His hands were bruised, but his eyes burned bright like the flames of the oil lamp beside him. Outside the cell, Adanna cried, please, my son is innocent. He came only for food. A guard spat near her feet. Quiet, woman! The king will decide his fate at dawn, but deep in her heart, Adanna knew destiny had brought them here. Meanwhile, King Emotan stood before the sacred mirror in his chamber. He hadn't slept. He stared at his reflection, thinking of the oracle's prophecy. Only truth will bring life again. He whispered to himself, truth. Could this boy be... Suddenly the door burst open. Queen Funmilayo entered, her robe trailing behind her like fire. My king, I beg you to see reason. The boy's arrival is not ordinary. The people are restless. They believe the gods sent him. Emotan turned sharply. And what do you believe, my queen? She hesitated, lowering her voice. I believe the gods are warning you. He looks too much like you for comfort. If the people start whispering that he's your son, you'll lose your throne. The king's jaw tightened. No boy can take my throne while I live. But enough, he thundered. Bring him to the council chamber at sunrise. I'll question him myself. As Queen Funmalayo bowed and left, she smiled faintly. She had her own plans. If the king fell, she would rise. Morning broke red and heavy. Drums boomed across Lagun as the people gathered near the palace. Inside, the council chamber filled with chiefs, guards, and priests. Etan was led in, hands bound, but he walked with calm dignity. Adanna followed, guarded on both sides. The king stared at him from his throne. Boy, what is your name? Etan, my lord. Where are you from? From the village by River Ukwu. What blood runs in your veins? Etan raised his head. I do not know. My mother told me my father left before I was born. A murmur ran through the crowd. Emotan's hand trembled. Who is your mother? Adanna's voice broke the silence. I am she, my king. The king froze. Slowly, recognition spread across his face. The same eyes, the same trembling lips he had last seen 21 years ago by the palace gate. Adanna, he whispered. Gasps filled the room. The chiefs exchanged glances. Queen Funmalayo stepped forward, her tone sharp. Your Majesty, do not let emotion blind you. This woman could be deceiving you, but the king rose from his throne. No, I know her voice, I know her face. You are the fisherman's daughter, Adanna knelt. Yes, my king. And this is the son you turned away. Etan's chains rattled as he stepped forward. Is it true? Are you my father? Emotan's face twisted in pain. I was young, foolish. The oracle said my blood was cursed. I feared for you both. Etan's voice trembled with rage. You feared prophecy more than love. Because of you, my mother suffered in hiding. We starved while you feasted. The council murmured louder. Queen Funmalayo raised her voice again. This is madness. Even if he is your son, he was born outside the palace. He cannot inherit the throne. But before the king could answer, the great bronze doors of the chamber burst open. The oracle herself entered, draped in white, her eyes glowing faintly. The room fell silent. She spoke in a voice that shook the air. The time has come. The blood denied must now be restored. The curse will end when father and son break bread, or the kingdom shall fall. A strong wind howled through the chamber. Flames flickered. The oracle turned and vanished as suddenly as she had come. Panic rippled through the room. Chief Etan rose. My king, the gods have spoken. You must eat with him, Queen Funmalayo shouted. Never! It's a trick. But the king silenced her. Prepare the royal meal. The white moon gourd and the iru beans. Moments later, servants brought golden trays of steaming food. Etan and the king sat facing each other. Adanna watched, her heart pounding. The king lifted a spoonful and smiled weakly. If this is the path to peace, let it be so. Etan hesitated, then nodded and took his first bite. The hall trembled. Suddenly the torches flared blue. The king's eyes widened in shock as golden light wrapped around him. The same light surrounded Etan. A voice filled the air, the oracle's voice. The curse is broken. The bloodline is restored, but one must fall for the other to rise. The light exploded. When the smoke cleared, the people gasped. The king lay motionless, a faint smile on his lips. Etan was still breathing, glowing softly. Adanna screamed, rushing to the king's side. No! Not like this? Queen Funmalayo stared in horror. The gods have chosen him. Chief Etan turned to the crowd. Behold, the new heir of Lagun, born of truth, blessed by the gods. The people knelt, chanting, Etan, Etan, Etan. Tears streamed down Adanna's face as she looked at her son. now surrounded by light. Etan stood tall, his voice firm. No crown will be mine unless it feeds the hungry and lifts the poor. I am not here to rule. I am here to heal what my father broke. The crowd roared in approval. Queen Funmalayo tried to flee, but guards blocked her path. The oracle's voice echoed one last time. Deceit cannot hide where truth has returned. She fell to her knees as the people cheered. Outside, rain began to fall for the first time in years. The drought was over. The rivers filled again, and the white moon gourds grew by the hundreds. The curse was truly broken. Etan looked up to the sky. "Father," he whispered, "your truth saved us all." As the drums of Lagun thundered across the land, the people sang of a boy born in secret, the child of love and prophecy who turned curse into kingdom. The rain fell for 7 days. Each morning, the people of Lagun woke to the sound of thunder and the scent of fresh earth. The sky that once refused to open had finally wept for them. The curse that stole generations of children, crops, and peace had finally lifted. Inside the palace, everything changed. The once cold marble halls now glowed with life. Laughter returned. Servants sang as they worked. Children played in the courtyards without fear. But deep within the royal chamber, Etan sat beside the lifeless body of King Emotan. A crown rested quietly beside the king's hand. Adanna entered slowly, carrying a small bowl of river water. She placed it on the table and touched her son's shoulder. "You've brought peace, my son," she whispered. Etan shook his head. He brought peace. He faced the truth he once ran from. Adanna's eyes softened. The gods gave him one last chance to make things right, through you. He looked at her, his face wet from the rain. "Mother, I don't know if I can lead them." "You already are," she said. "The people follow the one who listens, not the one who shouts." Outside, the royal guards knelt as the oracle entered for the last time. Her white robe was soaked, but her eyes shone brighter than ever. She looked at Etan and said, "The throne has chosen you, but the gods have not chained you to it. What will you do with this gift?" Etan stood, his voice calm but strong. "I will rebuild Lagun, not as a kingdom of gold, but as a home for every soul who was forgotten." The oracle smiled. "Then the age of kings ends with you, Etan, son of truth." A sudden gust of wind blew through the chamber. The torches flickered, and when they steadied again, the oracle was gone. Only her voice lingered, soft and distant. "Lead with heart, not crown." Later that day, the people gathered in the great square. Drums beat slow and powerful. The air smelled of wet soil and roasted yam from the celebration fires. Chief Odan raised his hands. "People of Lagun, today we lay our king to rest, and we rise with a new beginning." The crowd cheered, some crying, some singing. Etan and Adanna stepped forward. Etan held the old king's sword, its blade reflecting the cloudy sky. Queen Funmalayo was brought forward in chains. Her head was lowered, her eyes full of shame. Etan looked at her, then at the people. The crowd shouted, "Punish her! Let her pay for her deceit." He raised his hand, silencing them. "No, let her live among the people she once looked down upon. Let her learn that power means nothing without compassion." The guards removed her jewels, leaving only a plain cloth around her shoulders. Queen Funmalayo fell to her knees, trembling. "Why spare me?" Etan answered simply. "Because forgiveness is what breaks curses forever." The people bowed their heads in respect. That night, the burial of King Emotan took place under the silver moon. Etan placed the white moon gourd, the symbol of life, beside his father's grave. He whispered, "May the gods know that you found your peace." The rain stopped at dawn, and sunlight touched the riverbanks for the first time in years. The waters glittered like gold. Etan stood before the people, wearing no crown, only the same beaded band his mother gave him as a boy. He spoke from the heart. "My people, we were bound by fear, but fear dies when truth is spoken. From today, no child will be denied for being born poor. No woman will be cast out for bearing life. Every home in Lagun will eat, and every heart will belong. The crowd roared his name again, Etan, 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 until their voices blended into one unstoppable chant. Chief Odan bowed deeply. The gods have favored us once more. Etan turned to Adanna and took her hand. You carried me when the world turned away. This peace belongs to you too. She smiled through tears. And your father watches with pride. Greater than, when truth meets courage, even the heaviest curse bows to love. And so the village of Lagun learned that peace isn't given by kings. It's born in hearts that refuse to hate. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe. More powerful African tales await you here.